Hey guys, this is Mark Hutten with AdultAspergersChat.com, and today I want to talk to you guys about re-injuring the relationship. So, back in the day when you first got together, there was appreciation for one another, wasn't there? There was some love, compassion, and even gratitude, right? All of that is still there, but it's laying dormant because you are continuing to re-injure the relationship, if not a day-by-day basis, certainly a week-by-week basis. Think of it like this. If you were to stub your toe this morning, it would be swollen, black and blue. You may have even fractured your toe a little bit, but if you wrap it, if you nurture it, if you walk softly, it will heal itself, right? But if you re-injured it again tomorrow, and then again the day after, it would never heal. In fact, it would progressively get worse because you're injuring it faster than it can heal. So with the relationship, the re-injury occurs when you replay past hurts. So when you review the past injuries, things that were said and done that were hurtful, that's the content memory. You also replay the emotional memory. In other words, you feel bad all over again, just like you did when the actual event happened. This now influences how you speak to one another and how you behave to one another today. Reviewing those past hurts chronically, in some cases, feeling the pain all over again, contaminates how you speak to one another and behave toward one another today. That's re-injury. You're not talking to one another today like you did 5-10 years ago, for example. Everything is influenced from past hurts. So, if you were to stop re-injuring the relationship, the sense of well-being and appreciation that was there in the beginning will come back, just like a cork that you pushed down into the water, and you finally let go of that cork, and it will float right back to the top again. So when you stop re-injuring the relationship, you will get back to a semblance of how it was in the beginning, where there was appreciation, there was love, there was compassion, there was gratitude. And again, how do you stop re-injuring? You stop chronically reviewing your past hurts, which means now you're chronically feeling the pain all over again, which means now the way you talk to one another and behave towards one another is contaminated by the past. That's the re-injury that we want to eliminate. Hope that makes sense, guys. I have an NT ladies only group, an ASD men's only group, and a neurodiverse couples group. You're welcome to join, and there will be links underneath this video where you can sign up. Thank you. So in working with adults on the autism spectrum, sometimes we get into this business of attribution retraining, and that's a fancy term for basically helping individuals who have mind blindness, alexithymia, and other traits of the disorder such as executive function deficits and so on, helps these individuals to check the evidence before reacting. Because if you are a spouse of someone on the autism spectrum, you may have been in a situation where you've said something that in your mind was totally 100% neutral and harmless, but it downloaded in his mind as criticism, or that you're being controlling or something along those lines. So one common effect of misinterpretation for people on the autism spectrum is the development of distrust in others, and honestly, in some cases, it's even what I would refer to as a mild form of paranoia. And this is largely due to impaired theory of mind skills in the cognitive profile of these individuals on the autism spectrum. Now, a theory of mind is the ability that we all have in order to make sense of the world we live in. Every person's thoughts, knowledge, beliefs, desires, and so on make up his or her own unique theory of mind. Now, people on the autism spectrum have difficulty conceptualizing and appreciating the thoughts and feelings of others. And this is called mind blindness. And it's this mind blindness thing that makes it difficult for these individuals to be able to relate to and understand the behaviors of you, the NT spouse, and others as well, co-workers, other family members, and so on. By failing to account for others' perspectives, individuals on the autism spectrum tend to misinterpret their messages. And for the NT spouses listening to this video, you've lived it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Mind blindness also means that the individual with ASD level 1 has difficulty in distinguishing whether someone's actions are intentional or accidental. Okay? So neurotypical people will know from the context, body language, facial cues, and character of the other person involved that the intent was not to cause distress, injury, criticism, but people on the autism spectrum often focus primarily on the act and the consequences. For example, he bumped into me and it hurt, and so it was intentional. Whereas neurotypical people would consider the circumstances. For example, he was running, he tripped, he accidentally fell into me. So the neurotypical is able to fill in the blank with something that makes a little more sense than conclusion jumping. With individuals on the high end of autism, there may need to be training in this business of checking the evidence before overreacting to the event or the person in question. And this training is called attribution training. The mind-blind individual often blames others exclusively and tends not to consider his own contribution, or he can excessively blame himself for the events. So it could be attributed on either extreme. Now, one aspect of ASD is a tendency for some of these individuals to adopt an attitude of arrogance, where the perceived focus of control is always external. So when the ASD individual believes that he was a victim of some form of injustice, the perpetrator, in this case would be the NT spouse, may be held responsible and become the target for punishment or chastisement or a long lecture, or be on the receiving end of a shutdown or meltdown. So people on the autism spectrum have considerable difficulty accepting that they themselves have contributed to an event. But again, the opposite can occur where he has extremely low self-esteem and feels personally responsible for too many things, which results in feelings of anxiety and guilt. So in other words, he's either taking on too much responsibility for the issue, or he's deflecting and not taking any responsibility for the issue in question. So attribution training involves establishing the reality of the situation, the various participants' contributions to an incident, and determining how the individual on the autism spectrum can change his or her perception and response. A part of social skills training for this individual will revolve around how he attributes his success and will likely require some attribution retraining to take place. So this is where the therapist, for example, retrains the individual to think about his success as something he actively influences, not something of which he is a victim. Now, there are 4 main factors to which we can attribute success or failure, and those are effort, ability, luck, and task difficulty. So we'll look at each of these in turn. A person attributing effort may say something along the lines of, I worked hard and that's why I did so good, or I was lazy and that's why I didn't accomplish my goal. So here I am attributing effort to the outcome. A person attributing ability may say something along the lines of, I'm so stupid, that's why I failed, or I'm so intelligent and that's why I succeeded. So here I would be attributing the outcome to my ability. A person attributing luck may say something along the lines of, I was wearing my lucky shirt today and so that's why I won the game, or I wasn't wearing my lucky shirt today and that's why I lost the game. So here I'm attributing luck to the outcome. And lastly, there's task difficulty. So if I'm attributing task difficulty, I might say something along the lines of, the test was so easy, that's why I passed, or the test was really super hard, and that's why I failed. So there, I'm attributing task difficulty to the outcome. You know, people don't have any control over luck or task difficulty, and ability is gained through gaining knowledge and skills. So therefore, the only aspect that people can directly influence on a regular basis is their effort. And this is where attribution training takes place. So the individual on the autism spectrum who adopts an effort-based belief gains an internal locus of control, which means he believes he is in control of circumstances, and he subsequently feels empowered. Now this is where the individual comes to believe that he has enough ability that with effort he can be successful. And that is attribution training. That was Quinn. Message to the guys on the autism spectrum. Your wife wants quality time. And she's probably even said, well, I want you to have quality time with me. And you've had the thought, what the fuck does that mean? And why would you know what it means? She's very vague because she's very intuitive and she just assumes that you know what the hell that means, which you don't. Here's what it means, what quality time is. It's really simple. You're going to spend a period of time with her, could be 10 minutes, 45 minutes, I don't know, where you're not distracted and you're paying attention to what she's saying. You're present. You're listening to what she's saying. You're registering it in your head, and then you're repeating back something on your mind related to what she just said. It's about that simple. I hope that wasn't too vague too. Quality time is, I'm gonna be within 6 feet of my wife. I'm not gonna be distracted by my phone or any other digital devices. I'm not gonna be thinking about what I got to do later today. I'm just gonna take 10, 15, 30 minutes and just be here. And 30 minutes may be too long for some of you. Start with 5 or 10. And I'm just going to be here and be present. I'm going to pay attention to what she's saying. And then I'm going to have, I'm either just going to listen, if that's all she wants, or I'm going to have some commentary on what she says. I'm not going to have an opinion about her opinion. I'm just going to share, my information that I have on that particular subject matter. Or I may, if she wants a solution, I may offer a solution. Or if she wants me to just listen, I'll just listen. Maybe she just wants me to paraphrase back what she said rather than parrot back. In other words, I'm going to run what she said through my filter, and then I'm going to say, so what you're saying, honey, is da-da-da-da. Is that right? Yes, that's what I mean. And so it's really just threefold, guys. Here it is in summary. Stop what you're doing, look in her direction, and pay attention to what she's saying with no distractions. That's all it is. If you would just set aside 5, 10, 15 minutes a day to do that, you have computer time, we'll say, for example. Okay, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to relate to my computer. I'm going to see things on the screen, and then I'm going to type something, then I'm going to see an image, and I'm going to click. And so there's the back and forth thing, right? You see something or hear something, then you do some kind of computer, you do some kind of keyboard movement or mouse movement. So back and forth, that's give and take in conversation in the human sense. She says something, you say something, she says something, you say something. So you have computer time, right? So just say, okay, well, I'll see, it's such and such. I'm gonna make a concerted effort to have wife time. Okay? Yeah. She's on my schedule. I'm gonna go find her, and it's gonna be wife time. What am I gonna do? I'm just gonna be right next to her in the same room, maybe just 3 or 4 feet away, And I'm just going to pay attention to her. I'm going to pay attention to her, what she's saying. And then have some, back and forth conversation. 5-10 minutes. That's it. Not complicated. That little thing right there could save your marriage. And it sure as hell will save you both a bunch of heartache and misery.
Cognitive restructuring enables people on the autism spectrum to correct distorted conceptualizations and dysfunctional beliefs. The process involves challenging their current thinking with logical evidence and ensuring the rationalization and cognitive control of their emotions. Now, the first stage of cognitive restructuring is to establish the evidence for a particular belief. People on the autism spectrum often make false assumptions of their circumstances and the intentions of others, and they have a tendency to make a literal interpretation, and a casual comment may be taken out of context or may be taken to the extreme. All people are vulnerable to distorted conceptualizations, but people on the autism spectrum are less able to put things in perspective, to seek clarification, and to consider alternative explanations or responses. So neurotypical spouses can encourage their autistic spouse to be more flexible in their thinking and to seek clarification using questions or comments such as, "Are you joking?" or "I'm confused about what you just said." Such comments also can be used when misinterpreting someone's intentions, such as, "Did you do that deliberately?" And to rescue the situation after they've made an inappropriate response with a comment such as, "I'm sorry I offended you," or, "Oh, what should I have done instead?" One common effect of misinterpretation is the development of paranoia. The person on the autism spectrum can have difficulty distinguishing between accidental or deliberate intent. Now, neurotypical people will know from the context, body language, and character of the other person involved that the intent was not to cause distress or injury. However, people on the spectrum can focus primarily on the act and the consequence. So people on the spectrum may need to be trained in checking the evidence before responding and developing more accurate mind-reading skills. Cognitive restructuring also includes a process known as attribution retraining. The person on the spectrum may blame others exclusively and not consider his own contribution, or he can excessively blame himself for events. One aspect of ASD is a tendency for some people to adopt an attitude of arrogance or omnipotence where the perceived focus of control is external. For example, the person may have the thought, "I have no control." Rather, outside circumstances control me. Specific individuals are held responsible and become the target for retribution or punishment. And these individuals have considerable difficulty accepting that they themselves have contributed to the event. The opposite can occur when the person on the spectrum has extremely low self-esteem and feels personally responsible, which results in feelings of anxiety and guilt. Attribution retraining involves establishing the reality of the situation, the various participants' contributions to an incident, and determining how the individual can change his perception and response. Just a quick message to the resentful spouses out there in a neurodiverse marriage. Your resentment is only hurting you. So when you hold on to resentment, you are your own worst enemy. Resentment is holding on to past thoughts of how you were hurt. And forgiveness is simply letting go of those thoughts. It's just that simple. Forgiveness is not saying to your spouse, well, everything you did is okay, you're off the hook. No, it was not okay, they're not off the hook. Forgiveness is exclusively a gift you give yourself. What is the gift? Letting go of resentment. What is letting go? I'm going to stop playing that movie in my head of all the episodes where I was hurt. Think of resentment as a cup of bitterness that you continue to sip on. It's poisoning you, and it's only poisoning you. So forgiveness is simply putting that cup of bitterness down and refusing to sip on it anymore. Not sure if your self-talk is positive or negative? Here are some common forms of negative self-talk. Catastrophizing. You automatically anticipate the worst. For example, the drive-through coffee shop gets your order wrong, and you automatically think that the rest of your day will be a disaster. Filtering. You magnify the negative aspects of a situation and filter out all the positive ones. For example, say you had a great day at work, you completed tasks ahead of time and were complimented for doing a speedy and thorough job, but you forgot one minor step, and so that evening you focus only on your oversight and forget about the compliments you received. Personalizing. When something bad occurs, you automatically blame yourself. For example, you hear that an evening out with friends is canceled, and you assume that the change in plans is because no one wanted to be around you. Polarizing. You see things only as either good or bad, right or wrong, black or white. There is no middle ground. You feel that you have to be perfect or that you're a total failure. If you tend to have a negative outlook, don't expect to become an optimist overnight, but with practice, eventually your self-talk will contain less self-criticism and more self-acceptance. You may also become less critical of the world around you. Hey guys, this is Mark Hutten with AdultAsperger'sChat.com, and today I have a message for the NT spouses. And of course, we know that NTs can be male or female. We know ASD individuals can be male or female. I'm going to use the example where she is the NT and he is the guy on the autism spectrum. And so she will often say, we still have problems. He's not improving. Nothing gets better. We're still having communication breakdown and so on. And then on closer inspection, I realize that she is continuing to treat him like a neurotypical. She continues to insist on approaching him as if he was normal. He is not normal. Stop it, okay? He's not normal. And the more you assume that he is going to respond to your neurotypical ways, the more frustrated you're going to be. You wouldn't treat a snapping turtle like a toy poodle, right? You wouldn't give a snapping turtle a bone. You wouldn't play catch with it. You wouldn't have it sit on your lap and pet it. You wouldn't take it to the groomers. You wouldn't take it for a walk around the park and so on. And the longer you treated this snapping turtle like a toy poodle, the more frustrated this turtle is going to get, to the point where he may snap and now you're missing the tip of your thumb and you wonder what you did wrong. Here's a rhetorical question for you. Let's pretend that you met up with somebody from a different planet. And this person had a blind spot, a huge blind spot, with respect to how you think, how you feel, and why you behave the way you do. How would you try to communicate with that entity? How would you respond? How would you try to help? So in this example, let's say that you realize that this person from a different planet had this huge blind spot, but then you took it on yourself to try to improve him, as if he shouldn't be wired that way. And in this scenario, imagine that the harder you tried to fix a deficit that you perceived to be a deficit, the bigger his blind spots became. And then it got to the point where this entity gets so frustrated that now he gives up trying to communicate with you at all. Because, ladies, that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with somebody who has a huge blind spot with respect to what and why you think the way you do, what and why you feel the way you do, what and why you behave the way you do. And so when you take offense of that, and I'm not blaming you, it's easy to do, but when you take offense of that and try to get him to get it, you're treating your snapping turtle like a toy poodle. And it's getting tired of being dragged around by a dog leash. And the more you do this, the more that snapping turtle is going to get frustrated and snap back. Would you like to schedule a paid private coaching session? This will be in the form of a face-to-face Zoom call. Underneath any of my videos, you'll see this Calendly link. If you click on that link, it'll open up my calendar. You can pick the available days and times that works for your schedule. You'll get a follow-up email immediately after purchasing a session that will have the Zoom link that coincides with the day and time that you picked. I will get an email too that you scheduled a session, and I will be available on that exact day and time, and we will talk. I look forward to working with you.
Hey guys, this is Mark. Click on the join button underneath any of my videos, then click on members only videos, and then click on join. And for $9.99 a month, you'll have access to members only videos, which are excerpts from previous workshops I've conducted for NT partners, ASD partners, and the neurodiverse couple. New videos will be uploaded weekly.